All right, welcome to the second episode of If They Won't Listen podcast. Introducing myself, Richard, Topher, Dante, and our first ever guest. If you want to introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Patrick. I'm an undergrad student at UWM for physics, also an independent researcher of neuroscience and evolutionary biology. Got hopefully some publications in the pipe works, and yeah, glad to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Awesome,
Yeah, I actually
awesome.
read the two papers that you had posted on the little page I found, and
hmm
you in the second one you alluded to the first one actually being kind of similar but not, and I just wanted to tell you before I forgot that was really awesome the way you came through both of those because they really are linked quite a bit. We're
Yeah,
not that far off from other species, and all of this, in my mind, I mean, you can ask Ricky. I'm a big one for evolution. I understand that people evolve, everything evolves. That's part of the reason the diseases we have, even like the common cold, it's so hard to deal with all the time because it's always evolving. That way, it's trying to survive too.
hmm Oh yeah, and I mean that's the thing. I'm not quite accredited in this field yet, so being only a physicist, it's a little outside of my comfort zone to be able to do this neuroscience research. So my plan of attack is to really kind of hit it from all angles. That's why I have the neuroscience angle. That's why I have the evolutionary angle with the honeybees. And I'm hoping, once one person picks it up, the others will, see the merit and they'll follow along. So hopefully.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Last night, so I told Chris that you studied colony collapse disorder and part of neuroscience, and I just told him your name was Patrick. Like that was it. And he, while I was at work, sent me a screenshot of your face and was like, "Is this him?" And I was like, "Yep, no, that's, uh huh." And so he went out of his way to research you, and so applauds on that, Chris. But yeah, why don't you tell us what your thing is? You're the guest. Like I said, this episode's primarily about you being here and us bullshitting off you. So what is your assertion?
Well, basically, it's about the theory that we live in a sensory starved environment in the modern era, and we don't have enough to stimulate our brains to their full potential. And eventually, it builds up into problems like Alzheimer's and perhaps even epilepsy, other disorders, and due to the linkedness of neurological diseases. Even like peripheral nervous system diseases and things like diabetes and such. I think it can play a role, perhaps not the root cause, but certainly I think these insights could not only lead to help in areas like Alzheimer's, epilepsy, schizophrenia, but also the other neurological diseases too because of the connectedness. And started out with working on Alzheimer's. Had the insight with Alzheimer's, rolled it into, I believe it was epilepsy, then schizophrenia, and then the paper started getting away from me. I'm like, okay, this is a little too much. So I was like, got to break it down a little bit. So that's when I made the honeybee paper because I also believe that the reason the honeybees are going extinct is because they are also living in a sensory starved environment, and the colony collapse is actually a way to increase their rate of evolution to adapt to the environment. Um, should I give a little brief little description of the how it works in terms of humans, like Alzheimer's, or the theory as the theory goes?
Yeah. I mean, you guys can speak for yourself, co-host. But from my point of view, you talked about every area it goes into, but all we heard was, or a viewer who knows zero neuroscience
hmm
and can't allude to what something could be, may not know what like a sensory starved environment is. So could you give us the definition of that before you give us like why it would cause Alzheimer's?
Right. So a sensory starved environment, for example, let's just go back to when we were evolving as early humans. You lived in caves or huts, and the walls just had depth to them. They had different shades of grays, blacks, blues, greens, whatever, right? And you go into the forest, and it's the same thing. You got the leaves refracting sunlight, different angles, different wavelengths of photons hitting your retina, and essentially the big problem today is we're surrounded by 4 white walls and a door, and those white walls, they didn't exist in evolution. And that's the big problem, is your brain isn't fully capable of processing, and not only processing, but more importantly, storing and recalling that information. And when you throw in something like digital screens, say a white background on your computer, the photons in the top left of that screen are the same wavelength of photons that are hitting your eye in the bottom right of that screen. And that's kind of the premise, is the brain needs context and association to recall memories, and we're giving it very little context in the modern day environment. And it sounds worse than it is. Yeah, granted, it's horrible, but it's an easy fix, right? So we can differentiate the photons coming off our screen. We can add paint with a little more depth to it. And I'm not even saying white walls or plain wall is the main factor here. I think a lot of it is the digital screens, and that's primarily where the future of the research will go into. We'll explore that. And so we don't necessarily need to paint our walls in crazy colors or anything, but certainly maybe different refracting pigments of paint that aren't noticeable to the eye, or refract different wavelengths that aren't noticeable to the eye, will help. And certainly the augmenting of the photons from digital screens, so changing the light that hits your eye from there. Nothing to the point where you'd notice anything, but certainly your brain would. And I theorize that actually once I get this software developed, or someone develops it, that it'll actually help memory. So basically, when you guys I'm sure you guys can experience or can attest to this, when you're reading something online, you go, what the heck did I just read? And you reread it and you go, what the heck did I just read? And you have to reread it like 3 or 4 times. And you're like, why isn't that sticking? That's the theory. It's that your brain sees that block of text and it goes, okay, I see black photons, I see white photons. And that's all it sees. It doesn't see a slightly different black photon to the right of it. It sees the same black photon. So when your brain goes to store that, it's storing the same wavelength of light over and over and over, and that builds up. Eventually causes, short-term amnesia, short-term memory loss. And that kind of thing builds up over time, I believe, and is, if not one of, the root cause of Alzheimer's and dementia. And just to be clear, I should have led with this. I am not an accredited doctor. This is in no way medical advice for people. This is only a proposal for researchers to look into in the future. Of course, myself and others. So yeah, just to say that one, throw it out there. So yeah.
Oh, that makes complete sense. That isn't just limited to, and I understand, yes, again, you're not a doctor, you're not accredited. However, a lot of this is logic and simple physics. This isn't just limited to the ocular or the visual. This is, okay, so I'm an old head. My parents told me, yeah, video games are going to rot your brain, and I've been saying it through the years, but okay, they won't exactly rot your brain, because we've discovered, through science and through years and years and years of video games, and the video games getting more complex, that hand-eye coordination, there's all kinds of different senses that you use with the video games. However, if you're just using this and you're getting this all the time, you're not getting anything else. I have to fight with my son to get him to go outside. Everybody does. You have to fight with him just to get him to go walk the dogs, because he's decided he's just an indoor child and he likes video games and TV, and that's pretty much all he does. Long term, though, that could be an issue, because again, it's not just the ocular, I would assume. It's also, your hearing, your senses of smell, just going outside and feeling the wind on your skin. That's a totally different sensory issue than sitting in a chair with a controller.
Oh, yeah, and for sure. And that's the other thing, too. I think we're primarily training our brain to focus on the artificial. Look, where do you get the most important information from your day? You get it from your phone, your TV, your computer. Your brain sees that and it goes, oh, this is where the most important info is. I'm going to focus on this. And it starts tuning out that wind against your skin. It starts tuning out, the natural sunlight. I think that's primarily perhaps one of the reasons when you step outside sometimes and the sun just seems so bright, you're like, this shouldn't be a thing. Why is this happening, right?
Because you're living in a cave.
Yeah, exactly. There it is, and it's a sensory starved cave, and we got, and the good news is we're already living till 80, so who knows what this is gonna do? The sky's not the sky's the limit. Of course, there's a limit, but it's it's certainly, I think, a step in the right direction, and I think it'll help cognitive development in children. It'll help intelligence. I think we'll be seeing a lot, and I think it's pretty hopeful for this research and the feedback I've got. I mean, yeah, I'm not a neuroscientist myself, but the feedback I've gotten from other neuroscientists has been great. So I'm pretty hopeful in that regard. Also, not to rant, I know I've been talking quite a bit, but it was it was pretty promising to see out of the 30,000 students at my institution, it was the most read preprint on ResearchGate, which is essentially like the social media for researchers and their research. So I was pretty proud of that one.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I don't have I'm not well versed in this kind of thing at all. Really, my whole realm of expertise is technology, and so I'm wondering, like, is it? Are you saying that it's the I guess uniform light coming from a screen that's causing the problem? It's how bright everything is.
Well, the brightness I can't attest to what the brightness would do. May draw your attention more, may make you more engaged in the technology. However, the big concern I have is the wavelength of light. So essentially, when you have the electromagnetic spectrum, light goes from red to blue to ultraviolet. As that wavelength changes and gets shorter and shorter, it becomes blue and ultraviolet from red. So basically, when you're looking at the background here, and you see like black, that's the same. That black photon is the same wavelength of light everywhere on that black screen. So that's the difference. And whereas in nature that doesn't happen, we don't see these. It may in very, very niche cases, but nowhere where it's going to be relevant to evolution, where we have these flat backgrounds. So yeah, it goes along with what you were saying prior. It's the uniformity of the photons or the light hitting your eyes is where the real problem is.
So it's more a case of redundancy than anything else.
Exactly.
It's like the whole reason we have screensavers, because they found out early on that if you don't have a screensaver, something that moves around on your screen, and you just have one thing on the computer that stays there, like the Windows emblem, it would burn it into the screen.
Right, yeah, exactly.
That's the same thing that's happening up here. You're burning these images and these colors, and like Dante, you just switched the color lighting in your room. I'm sure that helps. I'm sure that goes miles towards helping, and you didn't even realize it.
But
well, in that case, I don't see the difference there, because what's the difference between the LEDs and
I think
the bulbs? The bulbs.
I think based on
screen.
what Patrick already said, it's not even the fact that it's a color or a light or a source. It's the fact that in said source, 100% of its creation is equal. So your lights right now, every single pixel of color on, maybe that's definitely the wrong vernacular, but every single piece of detail on every piece of furniture behind you is the parallel color to itself. It never changes. And so like his theory is that for cognitive impairment to not be created, your brain needs to be able to function with more than one mode of operandus to see, like more than one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like I can even relate to this in different aspects, and it blows me away. But so like, I mean, you would know better than I, Patrick. Like, is his purple light? That's equally a photon being created. That's equal all throughout itself, and that your brain typically wouldn't have been able to pick up prior to like us making it, right?
I can't attest to what light sources are the worst. I haven't exactly studied that per se. However, I do believe, and this is, I could be wrong on this, I do believe fluorescent lighting is one of the worst in terms of emitting consistent wavelengths. However, like for example, is purple light, you see it refracting, or basically, reflecting off his walls there, and that should be all okay, because you're getting different shades of purple. But say when you look directly into that light, that's where I think the majority of the problem lies. Not to say you can't go looking into lights, but it definitely is just it's a problem in terms of what's the word, frequent exposure, long-term exposure. So when you're reading digital screens, like same block of text over and over, your brain's going to have a hard time in 10 years recalling something it read on that black and white screen the first year versus something on the 9th year. It's going to have a hard time differentiating the two. And I think that's where a lot of the recall errors come from in Alzheimer's. And of course there's compounding issues. We have the beta
Patrick,
amyloid plaques building up and causing neuronal decay and such.
Can you pull your mic in a little
I think
bit?
the root cause is certainly the sensory issue. Yeah.
Hey, Patrick, can you try to just pull your mic in the time?
Oh yeah, I moved it. Sorry.
Like,
Sorry about that.
it's
I was
okay.
drinking water.
No, it's fine. Just while listening to you, like just the end of your sentence, like the word you say with the least amount of breath gets uncut.
Mhm,
And so
okay.
it's like you get 99% through your sentence and it cuts
Right,
out.
right.
Not you can't
Probably
hear
should have
yourself.
optimized
It's
the
just-
voice activation for the mic. My bad.
No, you're good. You're, everything you're saying is brilliant. I just said I don't want to lose subject matter because you don't know you're not being heard.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
And,
Either of you guys have any other takes? I can always talk forever.
I mean, I'm just curious about, at this point, different types of screens and how different types of screens work. Like the difference between an LCD or
mhm.
an LED TV. For example, with LEDs, you've got sorry, I just got a text. It ruined my train of thought a little bit. With LEDs, it's completely different technology than LCD screens. But, I mean, I guess the basic, just for any viewer out there that doesn't understand, the most basic way to explain how a screen works is you've got pixels, and in these pixels you've got generally a red, green, and blue light that are mixed together to create a color. Some screens have yellow, and some screens can do it, with pinpoint accuracy to the point where, any color a human can theoretically see can almost be reproduced. I'm talking about like super high-end screens, right? But that's how a screen works. And so it's just interesting to me, for example, like on the screen I'm looking at now on my iMac, I've got things in my dock that are yellow. But there is no yellow actually coming off the screen. That's my brain seeing that and interpreting it a certain way. Yellow doesn't exist on this screen. It just doesn't. And so that's just something it made me think of.
Well,
I don't know how relevant that is.
I mean, in terms of the research, it's extremely relevant. That it goes to show we definitely have the capability of making these screens healthier. We have the depth of color there. I don't even I can't speak to the range of the sensitivity our brain has towards sensory diversity. However, we definitely. Well, not definitely. It's likely that we don't even need those high-end screens. There's enough depth capabilities in the current screens. I don't see why there wouldn't be. Like, say you look at if we look like if your background or the thing you're looking at is say a forest with all the depth, then that depth should be there, and your brain should be able to recognize it. But the problem is it's not. I mean, looking at my screen, our four cameras are outlined in a big black border. That black border is just it's what draws. It's what your brain has trouble recalling, and it's not so much images with the depth themselves. It's really the surrounding context, the lack of depth by the other things, such as the white backgrounds, the black backgrounds, the black text, things like that. So yeah.
So could I take this? I mean, I'm still talking seriously, but there's a mild amount of me being comedic in this, and not. So be aware, people. Can I reverse neurologically fuck people and learn what colors their brain is attracted to? Because you know how you can create suggestions? If I ask you a question, but I phrase the sentence in the question with certain words, your brain will jump to certain words. And magicians, a trick they use all the time to
It's called
magic
misdirection.
is if they give you a chance to pick a number between 5 and 10, the odds of you picking 7 is like over 80%. And it's just for something to fucking do with that number. And I watched a whole documentary or short story seminar on it. And so, like, there's small levels that some people know. And so I have to wonder if what you're talking about in the photons being negative is almost non-existent as an accepted topic. So, like, you're in the conspiracy theory realm more than you're in the accredited realm until with everything, like for Alzheimer's specifically, since you brought that up, for 100 years they were telling people not to do a certain thing to avoid getting Alzheimer's. And when I was like 17, I was watching the news and they were like, scientists had newly discovered that everything they've been telling you to do to stop Alzheimer's was in fact causing it. And my mind blew up. I was like, imagine if for the last 40 years you were telling your mom to do stuff to not make her go crazy. And then one day you were 40 years old and the news tells you, everything you did made her crazy. It's like, whoa, I wouldn't have done anything and she would have been but I worsened it because I thought I was helping. And that's where intentions are good and bad. But I'm just curious, like, is there like attraction in these photons? Can I find a photon that appeals to a certain, I'm not going to say demographic or person, but can I find an attractive photon as opposed to a unattractive
Oh
photon?
yeah, definitely. I mean, the brain, it's a association machine. It we have fast food restaurants taking advantage of this every day. Color schemes in fast food restaurants, the reds, the yellows. I don't know. I think it's mainly red and yellow for hunger, but yeah, those stimulate hunger, and there's scientific studies that prove this. That's why they utilize. You got Burger King, McDonald's. They utilize. I can't say that's exactly on paper why they utilize it, but it certainly goes a long way to helping stimulate hunger in people that see those red and yellow photons. As far as attractiveness goes, like in terms of a general, like, hey, this should catch your attention. I would think that these red and yellow photons do have a general attractiveness to them to draw your eye, yes. However, I can't say that for sure now.
No, it's also another reason I think they pick those colors is to push you out. Because yes, it attracts you. It's like, all right, I see the bright colors and, oh, look, I'm hungry. Whether that's a natural response or something we've developed over years and years and years of conditioning. Another reason they put those colors in there is, all right, they want you to come in, they want you to get your food. If you're going to sit down, they want you to sit down at the table and then leave so they can get more people in.
Right. Yeah, and it's certainly the gaudiness of the colors may have something to do with it. It certainly could keep you moving. Not sure. Certainly an idea.
Was it just me or did he
I'm
bounce out a
not.
little bit there to you guys?
Or is
Just
that
the
what?
end of his sentence, like the last 3 words he said jumped
Yeah.
out for me.
Yeah, no, it's still doing that. It's there's a button at the bottom left of Discord that just looks like a bunch of little lines.
It's
You can click on that and turn off.
noise suppression. Okay,
Yeah.
Can you see
That
that,
might help.
Patrick, in the bottom left above
My
where it says
noise-
screen? It does a
My
little-
noise suppression's off. What was it doing?
Okay, cool. Well, then maybe Just pull your mic a little closer
So
again.
it's your
Okay, I'll
it's your
change it
mic's
real quick.
threshold then. It won't matter. I mean, no one, viewers aren't going to hear that.
No, I
It's
just,
just us.
you lose a little subject matter when you're talking, and I don't know if it's tone or it's the thing, but like I said, I just want
Alright.
you to be heard. I'm not trying to be like you're messing up, but I can't tell if I'm not being
Let me
heard.
know. Let me
in
know
the
if it
same
does it
boat.
again. I lowered it about 10 decibels, so hopefully we're good. I don't want you hearing. I hear my dog
Yeah,
over
you
there
sound-
coughing in the background,
Should be
so
fine at that point.
don't want to put the
Yeah,
background
you
noise
sound
in.
good now.
Awesome. Cool.
I have a 2-year-old who gets
Yeah.
when shit happens. We appreciate having you.
Yeah, I'm
happy
glad to be here.
too. Awesome. So Chris or Dante, either of you guys have any other immediate takes on this? I got a few more things I could say, but like I said, it's a point for me to bring up. I could talk forever
Yeah.
all the
You
time.
know.
So
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, we're
Part of your
we're all-
charm. Some days.
we'll call it that. I don't know.
Well, I think just I was interested in what Topher was saying about. I didn't understand your point of like trying to get people out. If the bright colors
The
are
bright
attracting
colors for the
people
advertisements,
at the
like
same
the
how would-
logo and all that are like, oh, McDonald's or Burger King or whatever your favorite fast food joint is. And I actually, that's a good point because I never even thought about that before. But most logos like that are the same colors. They're red, white, and yellow. Especially for like fast food. So
yeah.
they get you in there because the colors attract you to the logo, to what your stomach and your mind want. But then when you actually get in there and you sit down at the table, it's red and yellow, and it doesn't really promote, okay, let's kind of chill out and relax. You know, you go to as opposed to going to the 99 or Red Lobster or a 5-star restaurant, the lights are going to be dimmer, the colors are going to be cooler, or they're going to have wood grains or whatever, and make you more comfortable, so you actually want to sit and relax and chill out because they want you to spend more money. McDonald's doesn't want you to spend more money. They want you to come in, and if you're going to sit down, they want you to sit down at these really uncomfortable tables and benches. There are these huge, bright, gaudy colors, red and yellow, and they want you to eat your food and get the fuck out so they can put somebody else in that table with those gaudy colors that they can spend their money on, eat their food, and then fuck out.
Right, and I think that
I don't know about that one. I would challenge you on that.
I see what he's
because-
saying. I mean, I can't speak to the.
I mean-
sorry to cut you off. I can't speak to the validity of the gaudy color thing. However, I could see it being some form of like sensory exhaustion, where your brain is just, sick of seeing those intense colors. I could see that. However, I can't cite any specific studies or anything that supports that, other than just the maybe of it.
There were
Well,
studies when I was a kid,
I mean,
which is
us-
why I brought it up, and I remembered it from school, from like high school, even. Of course, we're talking early 90s. But there were studies done then, and I don't even remember what class it was. It was, couldn't tell you. But one of my classes, we actually went into that, talking about how cooler colors are used in these places to like more pastel blues and greens, whatever. They use them in mental institutions and whatever to keep the patients more calm. If you wanted to rile somebody up, if you wanted to excite somebody, you put the brighter, louder colors in there. And if somebody is excited and their senses are going, oh, well, I need to be doing something, not just relaxing and chilling out, then you're not going to want to sit at this uncomfortable. It's a whole, not exactly a conspiracy, but it's actually kind of genius the way they did it. You go to a nice restaurant, it's comfortable, it's relaxed, you have a waiter or waitress, they come bring you anything you want. As long as you're still spending money there, they don't care. If you go to a fast food joint, it's fast food. That's what they want. They want you to come in, spend your money, and go. So you can have more people come in, spend their money, and go. So you put these colors and these hard benches and uncomfortable chairs and these stupid little tables that really aren't big enough for the people that they're trying to put there. especially if everybody has a tray. It just doesn't work that way.
Well,
And it helps to push people out. There's a whole psychological thing, and it's really ingenious and really kind of screwed up, but it works.
No, on that same thing, like that makes sense. Like I hate to say it, but like
You
I'm
hate to
I'm
say
now
it? You don't like
a
agreeing with
boss
me, do you?
well, no. I'm just saying that like I'm a boss, and from an economic standpoint, like there's a time to dollar ratio. You know what I mean? If I can accomplish something for more dollars, it takes less time. But then there's the reverse implication and paradigm where something takes more time than it does dollars, and you can't fix that. And so in that same sense, if referring to initially what Patrick said, that the photons of the yellow, red, and whites will pull you in, then boom, they got you on the hook. And now that's not planned obsolescence, because they're not hurting you by attracting you. But that is almost coy negotiation with your brain if you're unaware it's happening. And most people probably are, since we didn't learn about this in grade 7 or 12, whatever. So, but taking that to the next step, once you get inside, I have never been fucking comfortable in a fast food place. So, and thinking about it more so, they have the opposite of soundproofing. They have like sound doubling. It's plastic
Yeah,
and
the
metal
acoustics
walls
are amazing.
and
You can
so
hear the kid screaming in stereo over in
it's
the
fucking
corner.
insane.
Back over on the grill flipping patties.
I would eat
Hear
in
him
the
swearing.
parking lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would eat in the parking lot. I would never eat inside, and it was like for subtle things like that. And so it's like I don't want to jump on their a malicious train, but I do believe they're probably more malicious than not. And if they're just smarter than us, and no one's ever talked about how they save money. Like, I'm sure their side is, oh, well, we use plastic benches and plastic wall and artwork like this because it's all recycled. And so from that aspect, you got to understand, we can't make it soft. We're trying to be eco-friendly. And so they probably take a stance like that, and they probably get a tax write-off for it. But if you're not comfortable in the chair because it's made of hard plastic, you're not spending R&D to be comfortable. And so in that same sense, like, yeah, they use photon, intriguing investments that they were cognitive. Like, someone had to choose that color for every sign. And as he thinks about it, I think Wendy's writing is white. I can't recall what Burger King's writing is, but McDonald's is yellow on
Pizza Hut's red and
yellow,
white.
and so that's about Five
it's
Guys
red,
is
big red letters.
an amalgamation of that. So like the photon's definitely pulling you in. Boom. And like I guess it makes sense that once you get inside, you want the food to be good. You don't care what the place is like. So they should spend more money on the food. But we all know that, like, if they have a choice between the most expensive meat to make us happy and the cheapest meat they can mass produce to make more money, we know which fucking slide they're going down on the playground. That's obvious. And that's just that, and I hate to say that there's an aspect of that to everything, whether it be phones, Apple costing more than Android and them almost doing the same thing, or I can buy a $2,000 skateboard that does the same thing as the Walmart one. Granted, my $2,000 one was made by a professional, and it's got like a 3-page description of how fancy it is. But that fanciness can still do an ollie the same as a $20 Walmart
Half of
one.
what you're paying for is the design on it and the name on it. Tony Hawk or anything like that.
That brand recognition.
Yeah, but so I have to imagine there's some level of that in businesses, and that it's just interesting. I've definitely never thought about photons, killing me before, but in an aspect to what Chris was saying too, I was just taking notes as opposed to interrupting you guys. Like power ties. If you guys don't wear ties, I'm a very business suit kind of guy. I like wearing them. I don't own a single suit or suit jacket right now because I grew too big. But now that I'm done growing, I might buy one. And power ties are a thing. If I want to make people calm and relaxed and assert how cool and collected I am, I'm going to choose an indigo or a indigo stripe with robin's egg blue over it, because that's going to appeal to softness with the robin's egg blue, and the indigo, like my hair, is it's kind of going to give you or like a magenta.
So you're going straight up zoot suit.
Indigo color. Yeah, but so I could invoke hostility for sure with a red tie or an orange tie. If I want to make people get out of my way in the walkway, I'm going to put on a red or an orange tie. And these are conceptions I was taught as a high-functioning businessman. I might even allude to the fact there's got to be some learning of ties in Wolf of Wall Street. I've only seen the movie once, but he wasn't wearing suits in the beginning of the movie. So I have to guess that, he learned something about how to, and they might even talk about it. I don't remember. But with the way the colors associate to your long-term life, the only other thing I have to say is I've studied memory a lot, how memory works, and how the metacognitive traits, and metacognitive for the unneurologic studiers, is thinking about thinking. So like we all blink and breathe and have five senses and have a reality, but thinking about doing those things and then thinking about how you can think about them, start stepping into metacognition and upper level thinking. And so memory itself works one way. Unfortunately, everyone has the same way the memory works. We have different abilities, with abilities being two parentheses, one being my memory is better than yours and one being it's worse, and then we all fit somewhere on the timeline because every human has a different ability to remember things. You might have a cognitive deficiency, so you can't remember, or you might have a cognitive. It could be an impairment that gives you better memory, or it could be because we don't usually call a non-correct genetic code a benefit ever. Like a four-leaf clover is a bad thing, unfortunately, but we call it lucky.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of how that goes. But short-term is everything. All five senses, no matter what you see, your short-term memory is firing. Boom, you're gonna remember it. So if you've got a 2-year-old in the background going la da 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 da, like, you're gonna remember that. And if it goes on for long enough,
and
be
then it'll disappear like everything else.
But that's because you don't know how to use your brain, and like that's a fault of society and no one else. Like it's no one's fault that we don't know how to use our brains. I myself had to do the footwork to learn how it worked. No one taught me. I was, you know what I mean, doing illicit substances in my bathroom, reading a 13th grade textbook when I was 16. Like that's how I learned this shit. But if you actually want your shirt short, I like have like a speech impediment with the word short. It's like accent from like 3 different places I've lived, and I can't say the word short. It's one of them.
You got
the smaller, different vernacular.
See, you like
The
everybody
smaller
else, you
memory,
can't
not
read
the-
short words that start with S.
The short term memory, if you actually try to make it go long term, you can get it. And the percents of which the things you remember, you can remember them better in 2 ways. If you Google, I can't remember things, how can I remember things better? And you relay it to research, they're going to tell you that the average human brain takes 14 times to remember something,
Repetition.
whether you want to or not. So,
I think what you would see if you Googled how to improve your memory, I think the first thing you would see is people trying to sell you $80 substances on a
Neurotropics.
subscription,
Yeah, well,
that haven't been scientifically researched. Yeah, nootropics, man. I love that stuff. Everyone with their different stacks that they take is what they call
I
it.
think I wish it'd be a little more regulated, but I mean, hey, there's so much crap out there. Well, not crap, not all of it's crap, but some of it's bound to work. I just think that they need to back their claims up a little more with a lot of this stuff,
No, but that's true. It's not even that. Me and Dante have talked about this to some degree, on sub levels, and it's with everything, like especially medicine. Whether we're talking something to cure anxiety or depression, or whether we're talking something that is like a flu shot. I have anti-research against all of those. I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist or spend another hour, but I'm just saying, like, all those things have a background, and people don't talk about it. And that's because in society, we don't solve things with understanding and philosophical constraints. We solve things with a pop of a top lid, and you move on, because that's the quickest solution. That's also the big pharma makes more money solution. So, not a conspiracy theorist, but the military-industrial complex will never not take money. Big pharma will never not sell you a drug that can fix your problem. And if you have side effects, since there's no drug that's sold without side effects, deal with it, because they don't care, and you will lose the lawsuit against their lawyers. Fucking fact. So, when it really comes down to it, like, society is the big problem, and it has to do with, we live in such a privileged place that if we feed you enough sports, and if we feed you enough this, and if we feed you enough, unlike photons, if we feed you enough serotonin releasing things, tunnels, paradigms, channels, veins, whatever little track you want to call the subject, if we give you enough things to think about, you're not going to really start thinking about the big things. I've listened to Socrates' Republic multiple times, and it's actually Plato's Republic, but Plato wrote it about Socrates. It's a whole thing. I don't want to make a misnomer, but I'm just saying, 2,500 years ago, 25 centuries ago, people smarter than me and smarter than y'all figured shit out, and it's 2020, and people all around haven't.
Well,
So there's a big problem. You can hop on.
I think we're getting to a bit of a bottleneck with just the information here. There's so much for people to absorb nowadays that it's sensory overload. And when I first got into physics, well, not like degree wise, but class wise in high school, someone referred to it as a dead man's science, and that's just because of the sheer amount of stuff there. But the reality is, physics couldn't be any more far from a dead man's science. We don't know what the next great leap in physics is going to be, but we know there's got to be one, or we just can't solve it. And that just, all observation to date just says that can't be true. So I think there's just so much out there, and there's like every little bit of progress you hear in the world makes it back to you if you want it to. Like, say you're following LED screens. If you're following that, you're going to hear about LED screen advancements if you're out there seeking it. And, it can be a little discouraging for people because they see, oh, wow, look at all these advancements happening. I can't compete with that. And, I've had that too. I forget what they call it, something in psychology. There's, I think it's imposter syndrome or something, where when you're first learning a subject, the reverse of the imposter syndrome, for lack of a better word, I can't remember the term. You think you're an expert on it. You think, wow, this is really easy. I'm going to be great at this. Why can't people, advance this? And then as you go further into it, you get that imposter effect, and you start going to yourself, hey, I'm not an expert. I can't compete with these guys. There's no way I'm ever going to learn this. And I think, all the time we're being bombarded with that. We see the experts on the news. We see them on TV, YouTube, whatever, and they sound so fluent, they sound so great that it's intimidating to the up and comers. And the fact is, it shouldn't be, because they were all in that position at one point too. And I think that's a huge problem that people have nowadays, is just that confidence to go out there and try to solve something. Because if you asked me 2.5 years ago, if I would have came up with a theory on Alzheimer's and epilepsy, I would have laughed at you. But that's just not the case anymore. I couldn't be more confident in my research right now, aside from some acclaimed neuroscientist picking up the research and running with it in his lab. So yeah, I think that's just what we're missing in society is that confidence, that oomph to get things going.
I just want to say you did have it correct.
Was it?
Imposter syndrome is
Yeah.
at least what I know it as. It's basically, just to put it super simply, if you are a musician and you're fantastic and everybody loves you, say you're Taylor Swift, for example, she might not think her music is good. She might be good, and everybody wants to listen to what she's making. But to her, she feels like an outsider. I'm not saying she does. I know nothing about Taylor Swift, but to her, it seems like she's faking it. That's sort of what imposter syndrome is. Is like you don't really know what you're worth, I guess you could say. And you feel like you're not a part of whatever hobby or talent or whatever you want to call it. You don't feel like you're actually meant to be there. you don't feel like you actually have the skills that other people have, when in
Well,
reality you do.
Um,
And I've read a lot of interviews with different musicians that feel that way. The most recent one I read, I think it was Zed. Um, it was Zed talking about how, like, he would second guess himself all the time and feel out of place in different situations at parties or when he was DJing with other big names, because sometimes it's so hard for people to take a step back and look at their life and realize, wow, I actually did do this,
Yeah, and I think a lot of it comes down to these people that like Taylor Swift, Jay-Z, whoever you're looking at, from musicians to scientists. I think a lot of that imposter syndrome comes down to you want to be your own toughest critic. You don't want the guy sitting across from you to be the one that's going to discredit you on a podcast like this. You want to dismantle your argument in-house, and then you want to figure out, how do I stop that? Or can I stop that? And if you can't, well, that's a sign of a bad idea or a problem in your logic. And that's been one of the biggest things that's helped me with the research is I try to break it and I try to fix it, and I hope I can fix it. And if I can't, well, I figure out why. And I think that's what a lot of this imposter syndrome stems from. You want to be your toughest critic.
I
for sure.
completely agree.
And I feel that right now. I basically I tell people that I make shitty EDM for a living, right? I've been making music for a little over a year now, and whenever I make something, I never think anything I make is good. I don't know if it's good. People tell me that they like what they're hearing. People tell me that they actually enjoy listening to some of the stuff that I create. But I never release anything. I've released one song under my current name, and even that one, I'm just like, oh, it's for lack of a better term, cringy for me to listen to, because it just, I can pick apart every little detail, because I spent the month creating and trying to get this song perfect, and then it never was perfect.
Never
so then
will
I just
be.
release it.
And I understand that, because that's that whole we are our own worst critic thing.
It won't. Yeah.
I was just gonna say Patrick said that, and there's so many things that make this more confusing. Initially, like there's society, and I've had my riff on that, so I'll move past that as a topic. But then you have placebo effects, where you can think that you have something you don't, and like, I hate to say it, but like, I'm aware of how doctors diagnose things, and if I believe something better than the doctor and can prove it because I know the symptoms and I'm a better actor than he is a diagnoser, then I can get what I want. And like, that's a fucking fact. I've learned how to move through this world how I want, because my reality's mine. And other, like, at the end of the first episode, we spoke about that. I've got out of fights by acting gay. I'm perfectly okay with that. My reality's my game. Like, to any I'm the worst critic with my music. I'm a musician too, but see, I've never released a song. I've never even got behind a mic that was like this one ever in my life and recorded. But I've got, I don't know, 200 notebooks front to back, like with napkins taped in there that I wrote on the fucking school bus or on the side of a piece of tape that I found on the ground. Like, I've got 12 years of music. I just haven't recorded. I know how to advertise. I know how to market. I know how to make my hobbies into careers. That's why I have a podcast now. My girl doesn't want to listen to me talk all day, so here we are. And I want to talk to you, homies, and Patrick. It was great having you here. But like, whole scale, reality is it's largely how you do it. And I'm my worst critic. But the first thing that helped me really figure out what I was doing was right was me understanding that what I do is right for me when no one else is around. And so, like, I struggle, like, if I was in person with you guys, I couldn't just start rapping. I couldn't sing. I couldn't rap. I couldn't country. I couldn't rock. And I know I said that grammatically incorrect, but I have learned how to write each music, and I can sing each music. I can terribly sing A Day to Remember and terribly sing singy songs, and I can probably pretty throatily rap. But to build the music, I built like this device in my head that can do it. freestyle, I can write, I can scheme. You can give me a topic and I can get you a product. But that product is made in me, by myself, in a corner with a mask. And I didn't choose that. And I pray the day that I can just come to your house and just destroy like I can alone for you. Because I could right now make a product and send it to you guys, and you guys would be like, whatever. And frankly, what you guys say and what anyone says doesn't matter to me. I want to be in this for people who like me for me, but we can't decompress our thought, compress it into a thing, speak it with this shitty language, and then recompress it into our own heads that someone else said, and then remember that. You guys, like, I barely have a fractional understanding of how my own memory works, and that's not taught. And as I started to go into earlier, like, most people don't know, and if you don't know how to make your memory better, you're kind of in a game that, like, you're the player who's on expert now. You're on expert because you have the tools and the skills of playing through all the other difficulties to beat the game, but no one told you that you were an expert. This is your first day, you think, but you know, and I mean that in a shitty metaphor to say that, like, in school they teach you the incorrect things to my testament. I think we could get away with 90% less medications and 900% more philosophical debates. I don't think we should have a democracy based on vote. I think we should have a democracy based on thought. Like you know, your vote is your thought. So like someone who doesn't want to speak up doesn't get to vote. But if everyone wants to speak up, everyone gets to vote. That's a real simple aspect. If you're willing to speak your side as a unit, not as like a left or a right or a red or a blue. I don't know. I don't even know what is a left or a right in like politics. I don't know any of that. I don't care about politics. Enough people do. And frankly, until I have to hunt for my food with an AK like I lived in Israel, I don't care. I just don't. I think the last time I voted was for Obama, and I did that because someone else I knew in my family did. I didn't know shit about him. I don't care if he's African American. I'm not even remotely racist. I'm proud that that's a thing now. I hope a woman gets
Just
in there
not
too,
Hillary.
because everyone's losing. I hope frankly, I just want it to be over with. I'm so sick of people being like, women can't be president. Like, I want a lesbian woman who's 7 feet tall and is a professional linguist in 17 languages to be president. Because that way, we'll have a multilingual president who uses it in funny ways. We'll have a woman. We'll have a record-setting height for a president.
She has to be.
And we'll have a gay.
She has to
all
be
in one go,
Latino.
boom,
Well,
boom,
Abe
boom,
Lincoln
boom,
might
boom,
ever
boom.
We'll have a gay.
We just need we need to get past all the trends. Society,
right.
You were talking about how we haven't had these lights for a long time, so we don't know their effect. Welcome to backs. Do you want to know why every human has back problems? Because we've been walking like 300 million years, or it's a 300 something, 300,000, 300 million, but we'll continue, and that's not long enough.
I gotta interrupt you for two reasons. First, I just want to point out, he's been getting on me for the way that I lift shit at work. And
oh yeah, I will.
He's like, I think you said to me one time not too long ago, you were like, oh, I'll teach you at some point how to lift shit. And
Bend at the hips, not the back.
Okay.
I took a back slip and safety prevention course. I did. I have the
are the
certificate. It's on my
one
resume.
who, when
Okay.
you quit smoking, is going
Alright,
to
also, here's
annoy everybody that ever pulls a cigarette out of a pack.
Okay, second thing, guys. I have to get going.
Muffin.
Oh wow, it's already that time. Jesus Christ.
It is.
Yeah.
Well,
So we're 3 minutes off an hour. Do you guys all just want to cut?
Whatever
before
works,
you have
fine
to
by
leave?
me.
Yeah, I mean that works for me. That way, we're not recording without you. But yeah, no, let's just do a 2-minute sum up then. Yeah, I appreciate you being here, Patrick. Thank you, and same with you, Topher and Dante. Thank you guys for taking time out of your weeks to do this.
of course.
To anyone listening, once this is recorded, or released at least, we will be already about to record our next episode. Please check our Patreon and/or our YouTube page, and there will be updates as far as new websites to reach us on or listen to us on. Gonna have our audio files solely uploaded on Podbean soon for all the episodes out. And if you have any questions,
And
hit us up
the
in
research
business
links will
account
be in
or,
the description
subscribe.
of my research, I believe, for anyone interested, correct? Awesome.
Yep. Yep, I will have those below all the videos for this episode. So if you want to hear anything Patrick has found out or is working on continuing and finding out, please hit up those links. Topher or Dante, do you have any outros?
I just want to say thanks, Patrick. You seem really chill. It's cool to have you here. Cool to talk about this kind of thing. It's always interesting to, I'm always looking to broaden my horizons a little bit, and wish I had the time to have looked you up
no
like
worries.
Topher did. But I'm definitely gonna be taking a look at.
Yeah, I mean, got any questions?
work.
Let me know. I'm glad to be here, guys. It's been fun. Thanks.